much. Oh, sit down. Okay. Hey, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules on a really, crappy weather day. I mean, this is one of those Army Marine Corps training days because we always look for the worst weather to go out and do whatever we had to do. First and foremost, let me just say this about the young people. The history of America in 246 years, and why do I say 246? Because remember, on April the 19th of 1775, that's when those Patriots came out and fired the shot that was heard around the world, 1775. America has existed as this incredible constitutional republic, the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known, because liberty and freedom is a relay race. And when I was young high school, I ran track, and I was on the 4x100 team. And in a 4x100 or any relay race, you have an exchange zone. And if you don't pass the baton in the exchange zone, you're disqualified. If you do it too early, you're disqualified. If you do it too late, you're disqualified. If you drop the baton, you're disqualified. And I think y'all just saw what happened recently in the Olympics with the U.S. track team that fumbled their exchange, and so they were disqualified. If we are going to continue on, we have got to pass that baton to that next generation, to these young people. And we have to do it in the exchange zone. And the baton that I'm talking about is the torch of liberty. And the challenge that we have is too often, a lot of us old heads that got all the gray hair and everything like that, we don't want to train up that next generation. What does it say in Proverbs 22:6? Train up a child in the way that they should go, so that when they grow old, they shall not depart from it. So that's why it is so incumbent upon us, is to reach back and start looking at our children and our grandchildren, to challenge them, to get them engaged, to get them involved. One of the most heartwarming things happened in this last election cycle for the municipal level elections in May. The youngest city council member in the state of Texas, 19 years of age, Roman Garcia in Kerrville, Texas, stepped up and defeated a leftist progressive socialist by 13 percentage points. That's what we want to start doing here in the state of Texas and everywhere. Now, let me start with a little bit of a history lesson, and then I'll talk about the importance and what it means to live in a republic. How many people here remember where they were in 1979? Okay. George Santayana, the great Spanish political philosopher, said in 1928 that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. 1979, I graduated from Henry Grady High School in Atlanta, Georgia, and I became a freshman at the University of Tennessee. 1979, I started on my quest to become a commissioned officer in the United States Army. But 1979, what happened internationally? In 1979, the Iranian Revolution. And we remember what happened when the United States of America didn't stand up for the principles and values that it believed in. And it allowed someone by the name of the Ayatollah Khomeini to come in and take over a country called Iran. And what happened to our embassy there in Iran? It was overrun. And for some 300, and I believe almost 400 days, Americans were held hostage. But there was something else that happened in 1979. Back then there was a thing called the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union invaded a place called Afghanistan in 1979. And the Soviet Union fought there in Afghanistan for 10 years, 1989. Of course, you all know that the United States of America supported the Mujahideen, who were based out of Pakistan. There was a 6'6" Saudi Arabian gentleman that was part of that Mujahideen. His name was Osama bin Laden. In 1989, I think a lot of y'all remember the Soviet Union packing up and doing that long road march out of Afghanistan. Now fast forward, after that defeat of the Soviet Union, Afghanistan went into a civil war. In about 1995, 1996, there was an organization of young people. They were called Talibs, religious students. And they came in and said they would bring order from the chaos of the Civil War that had happened after the Soviet Union had left. They officially became known as the Taliban. And the Clinton administration actually recognized the Taliban. You can go back and you can see when the foreign minister of the Taliban actually was invited to the White House with the Clinton administration. And at the same time, the Taliban was organizing itself under Sharia law there in Afghanistan and bringing in other Islamic terrorist organizations, to include that 6'6" Saudi Arabian gentleman that had fought with the Mujahideen, that was aided and supported by the United States of America by the name of Osama bin Laden. And therefore, 20 years ago, on September 11th of 2001, Al-Qaeda, who was based out of Afghanistan, supported by the Taliban, conducted the Pearl Harbor of our generation. How many folks remember where you were then? I was on an exchange assignment with the United States Marines. And we went down to our Combat Operations Center just in time to see the second plane hit the second tower. If you had told me back in 1979, when I had just graduated high school, showed up as a freshman at the University of Tennessee to start my career to become a United States commissioned officer, I was commissioned in 1982. If you had told me that in 2005, I would be on an airplane and I would be landing in Kabul International Airport, I would tell you, nah, I don't even know where Afghanistan was when I was graduating from high school in 1979. But I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan, down in Kandahar, which was the birthplace of the Taliban, working with the Afghan National Army. And what is happening today is absolutely disgusting to me. Because as George Santayana said, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and we are repeating history. You know, folks ask me, in your military career, what was the most memorable thing that you think of? And I can easily answer that. It was watching little girls go to school in Afghanistan. And they're in nice little uniforms. Because they didn't have that opportunity before we showed up. It was the ability to see women, first time ever, take off a burqa and actually drive themselves around by themselves. Or to know that there were women that were joining the Afghan police force, or women that were, having their own small business. But yesterday I talked to one of my former interpreters that we were able to get out of Afghanistan about 3-4 years ago. And I asked him how was things going for his family in Kandahar. He said the Taliban has already raised their flag, put out checkpoints, women are back in the burqas. It's not a good situation. No one's going to be able to get out of Afghanistan. See, this is what happens when we forget the things that we supposedly stand for and believe in. Now, I'm not saying that we couldn't, have made Afghanistan into America. That was one of the things that I didn't like, the whole nation building thing. But what we do have to understand is that we have to show a will and resolve to stand up and fight for the things that we say that we believe in. One of the great sayings of the Taliban was that you may have watches, but we have the time. And here we are, 20 years from that incredible day when we watched Americans jumping out of buildings to save themselves from burning to death. And now we see Afghans hanging on to aircraft for the hope of trying to get out of a deplorable situation and falling to their death when they can't hold on to those airplanes anymore. My concern for us here in the state of Texas, as we talk about defending this Texas Republic, is that when you have a 1,254-mile border that is wide open, that it is adjacent to a country that really is a failed state that is controlled by transnational narco-criminal terrorists who are already working with Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. It's only a matter of time. And we have already been picking up people that are on the terrorist watch list that have come across the border into Texas illegally. We have seen people from 160 different countries already have crossed into Texas. Just in the Del Rio sector, almost 70 different countries Haitians, Ghanaians, Somalis, you name it, coming into the state of Texas, not being turned around and deported, but being processed, given a manila folder with $1,400 of taxpayer money in it, and either taken to an airport where they bypass TSA, or they put on buses. And some of y'all take the time, maybe this weekend, whatever, go look at I-35 or I-45 or any other interstate. There's a whole lot of tour buses that are going up and down the highways here. Those aren't tourists. And they're being pushed further internally into the United States of America. So how do we defend the republic? First and foremost, we got to understand what it means to live in a republic. September the 17th, 1787. Benjamin Franklin comes out of Constitution Hall, met by a woman, a Philadelphia socialite by the name of Mrs. Powell. Mrs. Powell asked him the seminal question that is still pertinent to us today. Well, doctor, what is it that we have, a monarchy or a republic? And Franklin replies, a republic if you can keep it. But most people, if you go out, if you were to walk out here right now, go down to the CVS at the corner and say, hey, what is America? Now, the phone going off, right in the middle of my mojo. Too bad you're not in the Army. I'll drop you for push-ups. No excuses. Oh, she gonna convict me, Pastor. That's what y'all would do. Put God on it. Okay, all right, I'll shut up. Then I'll do push-ups for God. But the thing is that if you go out there and you ask people, what is America? I mean, you're going to get the deer in the headlights look. Because people don't know. I mean, you have people that are elected officials and they call America a democracy. America is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. We have a representative democracy. That's the system by which we are governed, supposedly governed. But when you are no longer teaching civics, when you are no longer, and I'm not talking about the young kids, I'm also talking about some of us old heads. We don't know what a constitutional republic is. There are two parts to a republic. The number one part is the rule of law. The number two part is individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. But even here in the state of Texas, we have forgotten what the rule of law means to the point where now we believe that mandates, edicts, orders, decrees are equal to law. You go around and ask me, what are the three branches of government? I don't know. I mean, even AOC couldn't even get that right. Google it. She's an elected representative. Says a lot about the people who elected her. But we have forgotten that the only people that can make law, because we're supposed to be governed under the rule of law, is the legislative branch. So look at this argument that we're having here in Texas, which, oh, by the way, started out as its own republic from 1836 to 1845. But even here in Texas, we are having this discussion about who can order, mandate, and have folks do whatever. This is not the Ten Commandments. No one is Pharaoh Ramses. Remember, you were bred of Pharaoh Ramses, so let it be written, so let it be done. That's not how we operate in a constitutional republic. But if we are not talking about these things, and we're not passing that on to subsequent generations, and we don't understand it ourselves, then the next thing you know, someone's going to come down here and say, I'm deciding who and what is essential. And we as mindless lemmings just follow along. Benjamin Franklin said, those who would surrender essential liberty for temporary security in the end deserve neither liberty nor security. Think about all of those small businesses. They had to shutter down. Think about all those people that lost their lives and livelihoods because someone made a decision that they really did not have the authority to make, because we live in a republic, not a constitutional monarchy. So I want us to start thinking about and understand that. And the other part of it is individual rights, freedoms, and liberties. You know, there's no other place in the world that was established on the premise that the individual is sovereign over the institution of government. And why is the individual sovereign over the institution of government in the United States of America as put forward in the Declaration of Independence? Because we believe in natural rights theory, the laws of nature, and nature's God. It's because your inalienable rights come from the Creator God. They don't come from man. And when I say man, I'm being, men or women, okay? But they don't come from man, therefore they don't come from a government. But yet, if we don't understand that, then all of a sudden people will usurp your life, your liberty, your pursuit of happiness. And really, John Locke, it was life, liberty, and property. And oh, by the way, I'm sure we can have a great discussion about property taxes, which is really kind of like interesting because that's a very socialist, very Marxist, philosophy. But you're supposed to be able to have your life, your liberty, your property, your pursuit of happiness. They don't come from man to give and to take away from you, but yet we're allowing that to happen. We're allowing people to decide who lives and who doesn't live. We're allowing people to decide when you die. We're allowing people to decide, God wasn't smart enough to make that Adam and Eve thing, that man and woman thing. You can be whatever doggone you want to be because we say that you can be whatever you doggone want to be. God couldn't even get the weather right because we're in control of the weather. And so what you're slowly seeing is that man is replacing the Creator God, and if man replaces the Creator God in something as simple as those instances of nature, then the laws of nature and nature's God will be inverted, and the institution of government will be over the sovereignty of the individual. And that's why we need to understand what it means to live in a republic. Unlike any other place, not a monarchy, not a person that decides singularly, but you have representatives that you elect at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level to go and be your voice. But there's a level of apathy that is creeping in, which is enabling people to be able to usurp more of your liberties and freedoms. And ladies and gentlemen, if we don't stand up and understand that and stand up and recognize that, then maybe we will not be that generation that passes on that torch of liberty in the relay race to the next generation. That's why an organization like this is so important. That's why you all being here is so important. And that's why we have to make a stand here in Texas. Because as I was talking with the gentleman right back here, so goes Texas, so goes America. So goes America, so goes the world. There's a reason why people have done something unconstitutionally, and that is to open up the 1,254-mile border of Texas so that the world can come in here, because the next thing you know, it will topple the United States. We got a challenge. And I'm just telling you that the most important thing about this challenge, it says in the Bible, and Pastor, if I don't get it right, correct me, but it says, study to show thyself approved. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 8, God tells Joshua, this book of the law. He was talking about the book of the law from Moses. He said, this book of the law, you shall not turn from it from the right or to the left. You shall meditate upon it day or night. And as long as you do, you will have success and prosperity wherever you go. But we don't meditate, we don't read, we don't understand the basic fundamentals that are part of this little bitty thing that I have right in here inside my breast pocket. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. The most important elected position in Texas and America, period, is school board. Because if your kids aren't taught this, if you're not discussing this, if you're not reading this, if you're not pondering it yourself, then guess what? Then slowly but surely you lose this great nation. So my challenge for these young people and for each and every one, and then I'll open up for questions. You got to understand what it means to live in a republic yourself. And when you do understand what it means to live in a republic, then you've got to step up on freedom's ramparts and do your part. Stop worrying about people calling you names. Stop worrying about people defriending you on Facebook and social media. Because if they don't want to hear about the essence of the United States of America, they weren't your friend anyhow. And ask yourself, what's more important? Hanging out with somebody or protecting, preserving, and saving liberty for your children and grandchildren? That's the challenge that we have. Am I worried about America? Nope, I ain't worried. Because the Bible says, do not worry. Am I concerned? Absolutely. But I do believe that the greatest days of this country are here ahead of us. Because I see folks like you all, everyday, ordinary Americans stepping up and doing extraordinary things. 2 years ago, you never saw anyone go to a school board meeting. Most people didn't know who their school board members were. Now you got people running for school board. You got people involved in their city councils. You got people coming out on a rainy Tuesday evening to hear some old paratrooper talk about what it means to take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take that obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation, so help me God. You don't have to be a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, or Coast Guardsman to take that oath. You just got to be an American. And if we're going to defend our republic, every single one of you got to start making sure this stupid microphone just got put on me is in the way. But you got to start making sure that you don't leave home without this. You can leave your American Express credit card at home. And based upon what American Express is starting to do with this critical race theory, please leave your American Express credit card at home. But you can't leave home without this. Because when you go to the CVS and you ask someone, what is America? As long as you got this, you can explain it to them when they get the deer in the headlights look. All right? That's all I got to say. What are your questions? Yep.
Okay. What happens to people, and I know that's not going to happen to you because you're a man of depth and character and faith. A lot of our representatives, and I know a few of them, they go with good intentions. They get to Washington and they almost do a 180. And you talk to them, it's like, oh, I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. As our governor, what are you going to do to not let that permeate you? I know you won't.
Well, I've been in the cauldron. I've been to Washington, D.C., and let me tell you, it's very enticing when you're up there and you know that you never have to go out and buy yourself breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you want a midnight snack, someone will probably come and bring you a midnight snack. Because everyone is looking for favors. And so for me, I used to eat MREs. I used to, hang out in a tent if I did get a tent. Air Force guys, they always had a hotel room. But I know I'm banging on you again. I know. I love you though. But the thing is that I don't need to be given any type of special favors because I took an oath and the oath means a lot to me. Now, think about this. About 50 years ago, between 70 to 73, 74% of the people on Capitol Hill, they had all done one thing. They had taken that oath, they had served in uniform, and they were willing to make that last full measure of devotion. Now, what do you have? People that, when you stand up there in the United States House of Representatives, you get sworn in, you don't even repeat the words. Some people didn't even raise their hand. But this is a reflection on you all, because you have the ultimate term limit, which is your vote. And you're supposed to be engaged in this process. Franklin also says sometimes you get the government that you want, other times you get the government you deserve. And I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse happening right now, after the November 2020. But again, if we don't start thinking with this instead of always thinking with our emotions, then we will lose the republic that we have. So no, Republicans redistricted me out when I was a member of Congress, and I was the #1 target for the Democrats in 2012, okay? Because you stand on principle. Yes, sir.
Is there any specific legal or constitutional authority that you're aware of where the Texas governor or the Texas
With the border?
legislature could shut the border?
Yeah, it's called Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3.
That they would win a victory if some liberal judge stayed whatever action that you're saying.
And then you repeat, Judge, Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3. And you tell the judge, Judge, you're not up there to institute your own ideological agenda or activism. You're there to interpret the law. And in Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3, it says that the state can take an action to defend itself when it faces an invasion. That's what the Founding Fathers call it. That they can act with when there is imminent danger without any admit of delay. And it repeats it also in Article 4, Section 4, that the federal government is supposed to protect the states from invasion. So if you're not doing your constitutional duty and responsibility that's clearly articulated and laid out here, then we're a sovereign state. And remember, we talked about the 10th Amendment. All of those powers not delegated to the federal government are reserved to the states and to the people. And so it's just a matter of understanding the Constitution and having the will and resolve to stand up and say, no, Mr. Federal Judge, you don't get a pass because you're not saying anything to the person that unconstitutionally is implementing an open borders policy by executive order. We're not supposed to be ruled by orders, mandates, and decrees and edicts. And now you're trying to tell me that I'm following the rule of law, the Constitution, living in a republic, and I'm not supposed to do what is right and true and proper and protect the citizens of a sovereign state? No, pound sand. The power in a constitutional republic that we have here in the United States of America is with the states. And what does it say in the Declaration of Independence? Free and independent states created these United States of America, not the other way around. So you just have to have someone that understands the Constitution and will stand up and continue to assert that. Yes, sir.
My understanding is the Secretary of State is appointed by the governor.
Yes, sir.
Not an elected position.
Correct.
But the Secretary of State is the one who determines our election procedures. We used to have paper ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Would you require the Secretary of State to put us back on paper ballots?
I would not just require that. You need to have an audible trail, but also I would require the Secretary of State to make sure that every single county in the state of Texas is doing voter registration roll review. That's not happening. Representative Toth, HB 26 has been put forward for an audit of the top 13 counties population-wise in the state of Texas. Of course, if we could get, those other rascals to come back from Washington, D.C., maybe we'd get this voted on. But that's the type of stuff that we need to be doing. Why are we not doing it? Why did you have someone that unconstitutionally extended early voting by an additional week last year, which is something that the governor does not have the power to do, as by the Texas State Constitution, our rule of law? So it's those type of things that we're doing to ourselves. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I shouldn't have to.
Nope.
My learning suffers because of this.
Absolutely. And if I'm correct, the University of North Texas is a state university?
Yes, sir.
Very simple. You don't do that. And if you do that, then we're going to start restricting funding to you. Just the same as we're not going to allow them to teach toxic masculinity classes anymore. We're not going to be funding that. That's crazy. I mean, why are we funding in the state of Texas, or any state, for our universities with the taxpayer dollars to go out there and create the next generation of little progressive socialists, indoctrinating them? The University of Texas was rated, I think, in the top 2 worst college campuses in America for conservative students. The University of Texas. And North Texas ain't far behind, okay? And wherever you see these universities, guess what happens to the communities that are around those universities? They end up trending blue as well. So it's time that we stand up and make sure that we have colleges and universities that are educating and teaching our kids just the same as high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. We have lost the battle of academia to the left. It's not too late, but we have got to fight to take back academia from the progressive socialist left. Yes, ma'am.
Curtail to what Glenn is saying. So the governor says, no, you've got to define the executive order of the governor, and the funding will be affected, but then the president in the White House says, no problem, we have federal dollars that will fund these schools that have been defunded because we defined the governor's orders.
Well, sure, I can up that game even more so. Then the remittances that the state of Texas should be sending to the federal government, I just say I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's time that we, Republicans take a plastic spoon to a gunfight. I mean, and we just got to stop doing that. And we got to fight back and understand that, no, you don't get to come down here and give money directly to a state university. That is not one of your enumerated powers. And we have got to assert those things. So I'd be happy to take them to court. But again, I just say, how many millions of dollars do we send to the federal government? Nah, I guess we'll just keep it here for our own border security. Okay? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What is the first thing you would do as governor of Texas?
First thing I would do as governor of Texas, I would designate the cartels as a transnational narco-criminal terrorist organization, and therefore we can go after their resources, their financing, anyone that's working with them. We can go after real estate agents that are selling them these stash houses. We just put a hurting in their pocket. And that is the most important thing. We can talk about property taxes, we can talk about critical race theory, we can go all down the line. If we don't get it right with our border, Katie barred the door. Nothing else matters. And right now, we have a terrorist organization, which is what the cartels are, working with other terrorist organizations. Anybody that pays them, they're going to get them into the state of Texas, into the United States of America. That's my concern. And so clock is ticking. I expect the Taliban to do something very nefarious on the 20th anniversary of 9/11. First of all, they're going to embarrass us. And second, they're going to send a message. Yes, sir.
Would you call it the National Guard?
Absolutely. You got to have full deployment of your National Guard. Why do you need to have full deployment of your National Guard? You got 232 tunnels that come out of Mexico into the state of Texas. That's not a law enforcement issue. That's a violation of the sovereignty of the state of Texas. That's a violation of the sovereignty of the United States of America. In the past 13 days, you've had 2 shooting incidents where cartel members fired across the Rio Grande River into the state of Texas, targeting Border Patrol agents. That's an act of war. And so you've got to have a deterrent down there that has the right rules of engagement to engage these individuals. We need to establish a border control zone. And we need to have the power to arrest, to detain, and to deport. If the federal government's not going to do it, they're not going to do it with the Border Patrol, they're not going to do it with ICE, then we're going to take over that responsibility here. We're not going to allow them to undermine the state of Texas and therefore undermine the United States of America. Yes, sir.
Well, it's hard to hear you say these things, and I believe you would certainly do what you can, but
No, we're just going to get it done. I mean, I'm just that kind of guy. I mean,
my question is this. How many people are in the Texas National Guard? Is it like
19 to 20,000.
19 to 20,000?
You have, this is a division.
Okay.
The 36th division is the Texas National Guard.
Doesn't Texas have their own army?
Well, that's the Texas National Guard. Okay, and it has an Air National Guard component, and you also have the Texas State Guard. The Texas State Guard is more, the Texas State Guard does not have equipment, they don't have, weapons or anything like that. Well, I won't call them hammy. I used to be in the State Guard. But they can still be part of a force that's secured in depth. You want to talk about processing, you want to talk about running the facilities that quickly turn people around and get them deported. That's something that the Texas State Guard could be doing, instead of sitting around waiting for, a hurricane and something of that nature. Yes, sir.
Okay, I think it was 2 years ago when we had a conflict between the federal government segregation and the National Guard was national.
That's called Title 10, and what has to happen many times is that the federal government has to ask for the permission from the commander of a state National Guard to be able to put troops on Title 10, to have them deployed or to have them to do a mission. Now, in the case of what happened in Little Rock, Arkansas, when the National Guard was, it wasn't the National Guard, he actually used the 101st Airborne Division he used the 101st Airborne Division. So it wasn't that he federalized National Guard troops. He actually used federal troops to escort those after the Brown versus Board of Education decision. But if you want to use National Guard troops, like you use the National Guard to go out there and guard the Capitol, or be there for security, that has to be a request that's sent down to the governor and approved by the governor. And
You wouldn't get your proof of that?
nope,
Okay.
wouldn't.
And they can't countermand that?
Nope.
Okay. I was just concerned because the Texas State Guard, I think, was more.
No, Texas State Guard only has about 3,000 to 4,000, but the Texas National Guard has 19 to 20,000 and has an air component as well. Yes, sir.
So I want to key in on your experience both as party chair as well as a candidate who will undoubtedly, upon victory, would need to build a coalition of sorts among your legislature. You know, and you said in Florida you were redistricted out by Republicans.
Yep.
And I'm noticing that in recent times, and I'm sure it's been going on for a lot longer, but you know, in recent times, Republicans have proven to be Republicans' own worst enemy.
I agree.
In cases.
Yeah.
And I am curious, to what extent do you feel it is necessary to take out bad Republicans in the form of, you know, spirited primaries? I mean, do you take the gloves off and knock them out?
Well, I'm kind of running in a spirited primary myself, so I think that kind of answers your question. Now, look, this is what you have.
I'm thinking about David.
No, look, and that's the guy that last November I referred to him as a political traitor, and I warned him not to give Democrat committee chairman positions, and he did anyhow. And where did those Democrat committee chairs end up going? To Washington, D.C. And so, again, we believe that we can compromise, appease, and acquiesce with progressive socialists. If the Democrats were in charge of the Texas State House, no Republican's going to get a leadership position. So this is what you have to understand. This is less about Republican and Democrat. What did I just talk about? I talked about in the United States of America, it is the sovereignty of the individual that is supreme over the institution of government. You can be a progressive because progressive means that you believe that relationship is inverted. It doesn't have anything to do with R&D. And so what we need to understand that we are in an ideological contest between constitutional conservatism, which is really classical liberalism, if you understand John Locke and the Second Treatise of Government, and then progressive socialism. And it's all about the relationship between the individual and the institution of government. And what you all have to do is you have to get engaged, you have to get involved, and you've got to start scrutinizing people and asking people, what are your real principles and values? How do you see that relationship between me and you and the institution that you would like me to send you to be a part of? But too often we don't do our due diligence. How many people ever heard of Alexander Fraser Tytler, Scottish political philosopher? Remember the quote, a democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until a time when voters realize they can vote their own largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, voters will always vote for the person that another person has got to do push-ups. Voters will always vote for the person that is promising them the most benefits, with the ensuing result being the collapse of a democracy over loose fiscal policy followed by a dictatorship. And Tytler talked about the cycle of democracies. We are kind of like going past our life expectancy. We're at 245 years. And you know what starts to change in that life cycle? One word. Apathy.
Yes.
Apathy. So pull it up, Alexander Fraser Tytler, pull up that quote and read the cycle of democracy and see where we came from, how we've gone through that cycle, and now we're starting to go into that decline. And what does the Taliban talk about? I mean, if you read what they say, we are a nation in decline. We're a nation in moral decline. We're a nation in principle decline. And that's why they believe that they're right back there in control of Afghanistan 20 years after today. But what you've got to do at your level, being at the city council, the local level, the school board level, the county commission level, you talk about, the voting machines, and you talk about all the guess who really does pick all of those items? It's the county level. And if you don't have control of county commissions, they're the ones that get to pick who has the majority of the election judges. Okay? Who's supposed to be out there doing the voter registration roll review? It's at that county level. And so often, let me give you a great example. I was speaking down in Dallas, and a woman came up to the microphone. She was just mad, yelling and screaming, "Bah, you politicians, you all suck, blah, 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 blah." And so I just figured, okay, I'm going to ask her a real simple question. I said, "Man, who's your state representative?" You know what she said? Ted Cruz. Now we laugh. But here's a woman that came up to the microphone, giving me all of this grief and everything like that, and I'm a good guy, I've been shot at. But then I asked her one simple question. Because all the things she was talking about was really stuff that's within the state. And she didn't know who her state representative was. The one word that changes the cycle in a democracy, a representative democracy, is apathy. And we see it in the church also. It's apathy. Next question. Yes, ma'am. Welcome. What's your first name? What? Ashley, welcome to the Ashton. Okay.
And so I'm viewing this more kind of like an interview.
Okay.
Are they interviewing?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but in that week, they talked about how the two group gatherings and so what I want to know from you is who is your wise counsel, like when you go and make tough decisions, who are your people according to you that are going to be helping influence your decisions?
Well, you have what is called a kitchen cabinet of individuals, and I'm not going to surround myself with people that don't understand being a Christian, constitutional, and conservative. Those are three things, okay? Now, who have been impactful in my life? I will tell you that my philosophical mentor is a guy by the name of Booker T. Washington. And if you read his autobiography, Up From Slavery, it's powerful. My spiritual mentor, without a doubt, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's why I like to get up at like 5:30 in the morning before the traffic gets out there and just have a nice 4 or 5 mile run with him. Sometimes he really kicks my butt, but other times, I can hang with him, but we just have that conversation. And there's a little prayer that I always pray at the end of my workout every morning. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be upon me to protect me from evil, that I may not cause pain, that you will give me the strength, the courage, the wisdom, and discernment to defend faith and freedom for your people. And my God granted as I have requested. And so what I have done is I pulled together the prayer of Jabez, and I pulled together what God told Joshua, strength and courage, and what Solomon asked for from God, wisdom and discernment. So that's what I do every single day. So that's the person that I asked to lead and guide me. What does it say in Proverbs 3:5-6? Trust in the Lord with all thy heart. Lean not upon your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will guide your paths. So that's it for me. No, you already asked a question. I'm a socialist. We spread questions around. Well, good. You're a good Californian. You can stay. You can't recall. We don't have it in the Constitution.
How are we going to with all these things that you're saying last November with how things are happening?
Yeah. Well, that is the concern, once again, is that you are dealing with an enemy that moves very fast. I mean, look how quickly the Taliban moved. And that's how the adversary looks. I mean, what does it say in the Bible? The enemy is out there looking to steal and kill and destroy. And so we have got to be very circumspect. But what you all have to start doing is developing that slate of candidates that you can get ready to go into the arena for you. This is something that you have to take as a personal responsibility, okay? I can, be in my lane and make sure that I can do the best in my lane, but I need you to also think about what is your duty and responsibility as a citizen of Texas, okay? Well, even now, I mean, you got to elevate these issues. You got to make sure that you're talking to the people that are your duly elected, absolute representatives that are in those positions right now. Like I say, school board. You should be coming down and hammering the folks in the board. You got to be talking to your people, to your state representatives and state senators. You got a great constitutional sheriff up here in Denton County. You ain't got nothing to worry about with Tracy Murphy, okay? Okay. Now, Tracy Murphy, he's square away. Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about apathy. Who in this room has watched any of the Lifeline Church? That's correct. To be short and sweet, all they did was check the cyber attack on those voting machines. They flipped 8 states.
Well, that's why we should not have those machines tied up into the internet. And we should not have people that are having the memory sticks and they're able to take those memories. That should be a control item, a controlled substance that's turned into someone. It should be under someone's someone's watch. And that's why it's so important. I think we got a chairman of Denton County here, chairwoman back there. She wants you all to come together and start going to these trainings before it happens. Let me ask you something. If someone wants to be a paratrooper, do we just put them in an airplane and say jump? No, you go through training, right? Well, yeah, that's true sometimes. But you go through training. You just don't get someone off the street and you put them in a uniform and you say, okay, now you're a soldier, you're a sailor, you're airman, marine, here, this is what you got to go do. So why do we think that you're going to be an election judge, a poll watcher, and these things, and you just show up a week ahead of time and you get the, nominated patch of the scene, then you go out and do whatever? No, we need to start building that cadre now, to get people educated, to get people ready, to have that battle roster of individuals, primary and alternate, so that we can go out there and we can be against the other side. Look, everyone laughed and joked when they said Barack Obama was a community organizer. We need to do some community organizing. In 2010, the strength of the conservative movement, the first time we ever had a strong grassroots organization, was in 2010, called Tea Party. And it was so strong that Obama realized, I just lost 63 congressional seats. I just had the worst electoral result since World War II of any president. I ain't gonna allow that to happen in 2 years when I'm on the ballot. And so what did he do? Got the IRS on people. And so we should have been thinking about, okay, what are they going to do in response to that? And we never do that. We are always on defense. We're never on offense. So I want you to go on offense. I want you to get with Chairwoman Howell and start developing those rosters of people that can go out there and here in Denton County and be those election judges, poll watchers, and everything. Got to start doing it now. The only way progressive socialism advances itself is through fear, intimidation, coercion, deceit, and ultimately violence. That's the only way they advance. Yes, sir.
Now, listen to Don Magneto today. He referred to Biden's plan to destroy America. How do you feel about the Taliban getting all these weapons as part of Biden's plan to destroy America?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can give him enough credit to say he actually planned what is happening. But this is the most. I mean, I can't think of any time in military history where you could see such a debacle. And remember, this is the same Joe Biden that was part of the pullout in 1974, 75 in Vietnam. He was a young United States senator, and he enabled that. But I think, was it Eric Bolling today listed all the equipment and stuff? I mean, if you saw the picture of the Taliban when they were standing there in the presidential palace, they had M4s. They had M4s with optics. So obviously we left all of these weapons, we left them helicopters. I don't know if they can fly them, but you know what? They're going to figure out how to do it. But you know what's even worse? China will come in and they will exploit that technology, because that's how China advances itself, by exploiting technology. So we just turned that over to them. And the other thing is that when you have a dedicated air base, Bagram Air Base, been to Bagram Air, huge air base, I mean 2 different runways, and you just abandon Bagram Air Base, and now there's only one place that you can extricate yourself out of Afghanistan, and that's Kabul International Airport. And there's only one major road that brings you into Kabul International Airport. So now we have put our Marines and our soldiers in an untenable position, and the Taliban has surrounded that entire airport. So now we got to beg them for permission to exfil Americans out. Will you please allow us to land our airplanes? I mean, this goes beyond treason. It is utter incompetence at the highest level. So, anybody else? Okay, cameraman.
So basically, the question just submitted about 20 minutes ago, you know, the basic situation with the Afghanistan refugees coming into America already. How many of those males in all the pictorials that you've seen lately, how many of those males do you believe are actually Taliban coming to Texas? And
Well,
furthermore,
that's one of the critical things you got to do. You got to vet individuals because, as you know, we used to have this thing called blue on green shootings. I mean, the Taliban was already infiltrating the Afghanistan National Army, and they were turning their weapons on our soldiers over there. We'd always tell our guys, if you're out and about, never turn your back on these individuals you're out there training, because you just don't know. If they don't have U.S. on the front of their uniform, just always be circumspect. So we have got to do the right type of vetting for these individuals. So hopefully they will stop at some point like Qatar or wherever. We have Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and we can do that type of vetting, that type of processing before we allow anybody to come here into the United States of America. But I will tell you this, there are a lot of women and daughters who their husbands and their dads were lost fighting against the Taliban, and the Taliban has already marked them to be sex slaves. So we got to try to do our best, if anything, to get those women and those girls out of there, because it's just going to be horrific. I mean, this will, remember the killing fields of Pol Pot? It's going to be worse than that. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I got a question. So what about like BlackRock coming and buying neighborhoods and China buying property, large property?
No, you just don't allow it.
How can
You say no.
yeah.
If you are an entity that has ties to the Communist Chinese Party, and folks, this is not some far-fetched thing. This is just not some general with the Chinese People's Liberation Army, you know, buying up some ranch land down in South Texas. Anybody here live in Plano? Richardson? Anybody? You have two telecommunications companies, ZTE and Huawei. They have headquarters right here in Plano and Richardson. And Richardson is one of the new tech hubs that is developing outside of Austin. So why would we have corporate headquarters of entities that are controlled by the Communist Chinese Party right here in the state of Texas? So you say no. Absolutely. Well, and that's the other thing we got to protect. I mean, it's food independence, not just energy independence, and that's the other thing we have to look at. And so you got a great Secretary of Agriculture here, you know, Sid Miller, and so we got to make sure that he stays in that position. All right, a couple more. Yes, sir.
Question. Heard something last week, I hope it's validated, is true or not. The governor of my himself asked the question, are you notified of the illegal aliens in your state because they don't influence you? And she said, that's because it's brought in by the NGOs. There's 3 NGOs that are living in the illegal aliens in the state. The largest Catholic church.
Yeah,
She told Catholic Church and the other 2, if you bring it into my state of South Dakota, they'll give you a license to operate. And she said, because of that, we're not happening. So, is that accurate? So,
I mean, I could not verify that, but I will tell you that she has the right to be able to do that. And if you go down to McAllen, Texas, you have a huge Catholic Charities facility down there, and the Border Patrol, they're basically picking up people in buses or vans, and they're bringing them to Catholic Charities. And Catholic Charities is processing them. That's where they get their manila folders. They find out where they want to go. They get $1,400 in that manila folder, and then they're sent out either on a bus or on an airplane. And so we're allowing Catholic Charities here to do exactly that. So, hold on. We got to make sure, because remember, I spread questions around.
Yes, bit of a hypothetical question, but so we have a federal government that uses to enforce federal law for administration, particularly like immigration, technically getting flooded. At what point does there need to be some sort of standoff between the state and the feds and say, no, we are going to enforce law. Doesn't matter what federal court or appellate court or perhaps even the Supreme Court says. I'm getting way out there in the deep end here. I don't know that you need to answer all the details.
I already did.
Okay, sorry.
No.
It just seems like there needs to be somewhere
Yeah, that's what I already addressed, and it's in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3, that when the federal government fails in their duties and responsibilities, also Article 4, Section 4, the states have the constitutional right to be able to defend themselves against an invasion. And when you have 210,000 people illegally coming into your state that you know about, that you apprehend, 38,000 that are getaways, you got an invasion going on. And so, yes, we have that authority, that constitutional right to do that, because what the Joe Biden administration has done is completely unconstitutional. You cannot say the borders of the United States of America are wide open by executive order. You cannot do that. And no federal judge can adjudicate against a sovereign state to say that you must allow that to happen. Because if that be the case, then we don't have a republic.
Absolutely.
So.
So I take it that is something that you see through wherever it leads as governor.
Absolutely. Or, yeah, I mean, remember, maybe y'all don't remember when Texas joined with 16 or 17 other states to bring up a lawsuit against the 5 states that did unconstitutional actions, and the Supreme Court said that we didn't have standing. Well, that's a bunch of mess, because the court of original jurisdiction, if a state wants to petition the government for redress of grievance against another state, is the Supreme Court. That's the only place that you can go. And, you know, it's supposed to be equal protection under the law. If Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona are doing things that are not consistent with the law, then why should Texas suffer because of it? And so I, made the statement that, perhaps there should be a union of law-abiding constitutional states. And the left went crazy, saying that I was talking about secession and everything. I never said secession. The people that are not following the rule of law, they're the ones that are seceding from the constitutional republic. But again, we have to go on offense. And when I brought that, it was so funny because, and you can ask Lisa, our campaign manager, Chris Cuomo wanted to have me on CNN after I said that. But then all of a sudden, when I did a couple of other shows before I got to him on Monday and I explained it, all of a sudden Chris Cuomo didn't want me on his show. Hey, Fredo, what's up, man? You didn't want me on your show. I was hurt. But that's the power of when you stand on what is right and what is constitutional. It's just the same as what you just brought up about Governor Nome. You, NGO, are not going to bring illegal immigrants in here, and if you do, you lose your right to operate here in the state of South Dakota. So why can't we do that? And oh, by the way, Catholic Charities getting a lot of federal taxpayer dollars. A lot of it. Yes, sir. You guys come. And let's keep him in prayer, seriously. Let's keep him in prayer because he did come down positive with COVID today. But you have to ask, not just the governor, you have to ask all of your elected representatives, why are you guys not invoking the Constitution and securing our border? Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And I try to be proactive, and I've called Governor Rabbit's office, I've written Governor Rabbit, our city council has done the same thing, I've emailed him. I'm aware of his, I admit, he's always been interested in politics. I raised the boys and I was before. But I'm very informed now. But just with this next thing with the city of Denton, I got some of the most condescending email answers back. And when I write John Porter, I get the most condescending. Ted Cruz is great. I get a good answer from him. And then our representative here, I got a great answer from him because he's the only conservative one. And he was really
You're never helpless as a citizen. You're only helpless when you become a subject.
Well, I pray,
Okay.
the only thing I do is I just pray that God puts me where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to trust that we're gonna be okay. But I'm just so frustrated with Abbott because it's just like the other politicians, they pat you on the head, nice little girl, and we're gonna do what we think is best.
You own the ultimate term limit. And remember what I said, it's one word, apathy. This is why I always challenge people. Find 5 people that don't think and believe as you do, and get 3. 3 out of 5. 2 of them are stuck on stupid. That's why I don't say 5 on 5. But 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 is 60%. And I will tell you that there are 3 out of 5 people out there that are saying, I'm paying too much for my gas. I don't like the fact that my property taxes just double. I don't like the fact that all these commodity prices are just going skyrocket. I don't understand why all of a sudden, we have allowed terrorists to take over in Afghanistan. I don't understand why we are begging, nations that hate us to produce more oil and gas for us when we got oil and gas here. I mean, if you just come together and formulate your thoughts, formulate your ideas, formulate your principles, formulate your talking points. Every single one of you should be walking around with this. Okay, this is what the Army taught me. A good commander can't remember everything. So you write it down and you carry it with you. And if you just always have this ready so that you can show yourself to be approved, then this is how you get that 3 out of 5. Because I don't think people wake up every single day of their lives and they want to be a victim. But if the only message they hear is being a victim, they never hear the message of how to be a victor, they're going to be a victim. And so it is incumbent upon each and every one of us to get outside our comfort zones. But first and foremost, like it says on my little wristband here that is hiding, put on the full armor of God. So you need to put on the full armor of understanding what it means to live in a republic. And when you put on that full armor, and you have this full armor on, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment you shall condemn, for that's the heritage of those who love the Lord, who are called for his purpose. Isaiah 54:17. All right? A couple more questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Where? Yes, ma'am. Hi.
So you said 200, you're talking about the invasion of the border, and you said the number 210,000. Is that as of what day, do you know?
The month of July.
1 month.
1 month. 210,000 apprehended coming to the
Actually
apprehended.
actually got rid of.
That's 38,000, the getaways.
Okay.
1.3 million for fiscal year 2021, 350,000 getaways so far. Apprehension means that you just get them, you process them, and then they get released. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're getting deported.
So how long can this go on before?
I know, that's what the concern is that you're going to reach a critical mass.
Right now, that's the only thing you can do to be elected,
That's just kind of how the process works. I mean,
So we can't, the people, the citizens, there's no lawsuits that we can.
of course there are lawsuits you can bring. When you talk to people down along the border counties, I mean, they're starting to come together and do that because their property values are going down. And, hunting season is coming up, and people are losing their livelihoods because no one wants to come down and stay in a hunting lodge when they know there's a bunch of illegals running around and there are drug cartels running around all over the place. So people are seeing economic effects. People are seeing psychological effects, And so, yes, there are many things that you can do as citizens. I mean, wouldn't it be great if all y'all got together and just did a nice little 2 to 3 minute video? Just each one of y'all in a video come together and say, here's my concern about an open border. Because America is always about, and Texas is always about ordinary people that did something extraordinary. And that's what you can do. You're never helpless. The only time you're helpless is when they take that away. And when they take that away, you're no longer a citizen, you're a subject. And that's why they want to take it away, because they want you to be helpless. Okay? How many ladies here? How many ladies here, Carrie? How many ladies here? All right, good. You got to make sure you carry because you got to be protecting yourself. You don't carry a police officer on your hip, okay? But you can carry that. But that's what you got to do. You got to stand up. You got to let your voice be heard.
Well, you know, when you say do a video, definitely supposed to post.
Oh, you post?
Social media, but
No. All you got to do, no. All you got to do is talk about, I am so-and-so, here's my concern about an open border. And talk about how you believe it affects you. That's it. All right.
When are we going to be able to get yard signs?
Oh, yard signs are coming out. I mean, we got first batch of 5,000.
The first 5,000 is I can do business cards, we've got probably
Yeah.
100 left in the account.
And look, this has been an incredible response. This is only week number 6. And I mean, after week 1, people were saying, where's my yard sign? And we would never thought people wanted yard signs this early, okay? So just make sure no one steals your yard sign. I mean, put a little electrical charge on it or something like that, okay? All right. So there are a couple of people who want to ask a second round. Okay, first question back here. Yes, sir.
What do you think the extent of the voter fraud in Texas and election fraud in Texas has been? I know, I've heard that you support having a full audit of the state.
Yeah.
That's correct?
Yeah, HB 26.
Yeah. What are your thoughts and opinions on the extent of voter fraud and election fraud in our state?
Well, it's very simple. Chris Hollins, who's the county clerk in Harris County, should be in jail because of what he did. Trying to mail out 2.7 million unsolicited ballots, extending what is called the curbside voting beyond what the Texas state constitution says curbside voting should be, and then also trying to do other nefarious things such as the 24-hour polling locations. I mean, the only thing that I like that's 24 hours is Waffle House. Okay? We don't need to be voting for 24 hours. But again, coming back to who mentioned the Secretary of State, if we aren't showing consequences for this bad behavior, if we're not holding people accountable, then they just continue to do it. You know?
What about Denton County?
I don't so much know about Denton County, but I will tell you this, is that Dallas County and Harris County, we have got to fix Dallas County, Harris County, and to an extent, Travis County as well, because the largest population counties are controlled by the Progressive Socialist left, and that's where you see the greatest amount of nefarious actions and activities.
Seth Keshel's done a ton of experimentation as far as analysis of all of the public open source data. He's roughly saying that Biden got 1 million more votes in this state than he should have, which the left turns into a reason to get rid of the electoral college, right? So he's showing that there's 45,000 fraud votes in this county. I suggest you might want to check out his work. It's very, very legitimate. He's done the whole United States,
All right.
3,006 counties. Good stuff.
Fair enough. All right, alibi question.
Quick comment. I read,
No, alibi question.
I just had a senior moment. I just wanted to make a comment about,
Clock's ticking.
I know, quick. I was told that the Taliban is releasing Al-Qaeda.
Oh, absolutely. They're releasing,
And they're
yeah.
releasing some of the bigwigs.
Well, we did that. I mean, Barack Obama released the 5 senior Taliban generals, and now they're right back where they were previously.
Well, now
So we
I
did
just
it
read
ourselves.
They're doing it, they're out on the prowl. It's
Yep.
the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yep. Like I said, they're going to do something to embarrass us, then they might do something even worse. All right, other alibi? Quickly?
Quick one, maybe a Lisa question about campaign. What if you could share for strategies winning the primary and then the general?
Well, I think that we won't have a problem winning the general because any of the individuals that they is looking to put up, we hadn't heard much from Matthew McConaughey since I announced that I was going to run. They're looking at, we've heard about Sylvester Turner, but Sylvester Turner is so corrupt that, I mean, he can't survive. But the most important thing with the primary is to get out across Texas. And, I put in 33,000 miles last year as the chairman. I've already put in 5,000 in the month of July after announcing. So it's just getting people to see and to talk to me and understand who I am. My name and face recognition is pretty high. I'm not going to try to compete with the governor, $55 million. And really, $55 million is irrelevant to me because I'm not running against your wallet. I'm running for Texas. And what I'm concerned about is what do you stand for? And that's the message that we want to get out. So West, the number 4texas.com is the website, west4texas.com. And I appreciate you all coming out and appreciate having this opportunity to chat with you. God bless you all.